A very good evening and good morning to all the participants. We're going to start today's session. So what is SLT? SLT stands for SAP. SLT stands for SAP Landscape Transformation. SLT can communicate. SLT can communicate using SAP as well as non-SAP systems. You can use SLT for SAP as well as for non-SAP. You can use for SAP as well as for non-SAP. When you communicate with SAP systems, the communication between SAP and SLT, both of them communicate using RFC, remote function call. So SAP and SLT, both the systems communicate using RFC, remote function call. Oh, participants able to hear me? Because I've just got a message, participants not able to hear me. Is everything okay from my side? I'm just seeing some message. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And non-SAP to SLT is a DB connection. So this is a DB connection, database connection. SLT to HANA. The communication between SLT to SAP HANA is again a DB connection. Now, what is the use of SLT first of all? The use of SLT is it is used to transfer data in real time. SLT is used to transfer data in real time. It can be used for SAP systems. You can use SLT even for non-SAP systems. For both the systems, you can use SLT system. So when you're working on an SLT project, what is our role? What activities we have to perform on a project? Let us see in detail what activities we perform in a project. So when working on SLT project, there are two things that we have to work on. The first thing is setting up SLT. We need to set up SLT. And the second thing is replicating data in real time. So first we need to set up. So how do you set up? So we can set up SLT in a transaction code called LTRC. There is a special T code to set up SLT. It's known as LTRC. The T code is LTRC. What is LTRC? LTRC stands for Landscape Transformation Replication Cockpit. Landscape Transformation Replication Cockpit. In order to work on SLT, one T code is LTRC. And the other way to work on SLT is directly at the HANA Studio. You can also work on SAP HANA Studio. So at the HANA Studio, so where do you find SLT at HANA Studio? Click Window, click Perspective, click Reset Perspective, click Yes. So once you click Yes, so here we see Quick View. So what is Quick View? The Quick View has shortcuts to most important options available in SAP HANA. So at the Quick View, click on Data Provisioning. Once you click on Data Provisioning, we need to select System. So when working on real projects, you'll have a development system, quality and production. So whatever system that is relevant, we have to select that system. So in this case, I only have one system. So I'm selecting this system and click Finish. So once you click Finish, so here you can see SAP HANA Data Provisioning Editor SLT. SLT based table data provisioning. So this is one UI. So this is one of the UI that is available at HANA Studio. So how did we get into here? Go to the Quick View, click on Data Provisioning, select System, click Finish. Then you come to this window. There is another window in ABAP. So let us log into SAP GUI. So let us let's click on Start. Click All Programs. Click on SAP Frontend. Click SAP Logon. Double click on ECC. So once you double click on ECC, enter the username best, password W capital, welcome 123. Click enter. So what is the T code? The T code is LTRC. Enter LTRC and click enter. What is LTRC? Landscape Transformation Replication Cockpit. So let us click enter. So once you enter, here you can see SAP LT Replication Server Cockpit. Now what we have to do over here, at the SAP LTRC, so in this transaction code, we have to create something called configuration. Now what is config? Configuration is nothing but connecting. Config is nothing but connecting source to target. So you can connect source to target. How you can connect source to target? Using creating a configuration. What is the source? So in this case, source is SAP ECC. Source is an SAP system. A target is SAP HANA. What is in between source and target? In between source and target, you have SLT. So what we need to do? We need to connect to the source. So how can you connect to source? By creating a configuration. So once you create a configuration, what system you're going to connect? What is the target system you're going to connect? So where will we specify? So you'll specify at the configuration. So when you're creating a configuration, you'll specify what is the source, what is the target. So what source you're going to connect? Source is ECC. What is the target you're going to connect? So target is SAP HANA. how many number of jobs you require. We also need to specify how many number of jobs. So what are these jobs? Jobs are used to transfer data from source to target. So in here, job is used to transfer data. So how do you know how many jobs we have to give? So there is a very simple calculation on how many jobs we need to allocate to transfer data from ECC to SAP HANA. So here is the calculation. The calculation is one job. If you give one job at an average can transfer about 4 tables. How many tables? One job can transfer 4 tables. One job requires 0.5 CPU. It requires 0.5 CPU. We'll do a simple calculation. Suppose say you have a requirement to transfer 16 tables. So you have 16 tables to transfer. Then how many jobs you require? 4 jobs. So if you configure 4 jobs can transfer 16 tables. These 4 jobs to function, how much CPU require? We require about 2 core CPU. We require 2 core CPU. When you're working on SLT projects, SLT systems comes in various sizes. So they're basically available in different sizes. Like for example, you have small scale SLT systems. Small scale SLT. You have medium scale SLT systems. Large scale SLT. When you have small scale SLT, you have about 8 core CPU. 8 cores you have, 16 GB of RAM. One more thing we need to remember, we need to note one point over here. SLT systems are dedicated systems. All the hardware is dedicated for SLT. Always, when working on real projects, SLT has a dedicated hardware. It never shares its hardware with the source or with the target. We can use SLT directly in ECC. So we can use SLT inside ECC, but when working on real projects, we never use SLT inside ECC. But here, in our landscape, that we are working in our landscape, one computer is sharing 2 applications. One hardware is sharing 2 applications. It is sharing with ECC, it is also sharing with SLT. Now because we are using practice systems, one host is sharing 2 applications. But actually when working on real projects, always you have a dedicated system. We never share with ECC. Okay, so this is how we configure small scale SLT, 8 core, 16 GB of RAM. Now when you have medium scale SLT, you'll have about 16 core, 32 GB of RAM. And then you have large scale, you'll have about 32 to 64 core CPU. 32 to 64 core CPU. And the RAM you'll have about 64 to 128 GB of RAM. So it depends on how many tables you want to replicate from ECC to SAP HANA. It depends on the number of tables you want to replicate from ECC to SAP HANA. So depending on that, you can go for the hardware configuration. And this hardware configuration you can scale up. Later, you want to add more cores, you can add. You want to add more RAM, you can keep adding to the system. But this is the general configuration for small scale, medium scale, and large scale. A very simple calculation is one job can replicate 4 tables. Each job requires a 0.5 CPU. Okay, so what I'm trying to explain over here is for SLT to connect to ECC and to SAP HANA, what is step number 1? Step number one is to create RFC. So I'll explain with steps. Step 1, create RFC in the T code SM59. So there is a special T code called SM59. So in this transaction code, you can create an RFC connection. I'll show you in detail all the practicals. I'll try to show you in detail. So step number 1 is to create an RFC. So once you create an RFC, step 2, we need to create a config. When you're creating a configuration, what details we require? We require what is the source you're going to connect, what target you're going to connect, and what is the source? Source is ECC. I would like to connect to SAP HANA. How many number of jobs are required? Again, in these jobs, there are 3 types of jobs. There are 3 types of jobs. One is known as initial job. It's known as initial. The second job is known as data transfer job. And third one is known as calculation job. So what is the difference between initial job, a data transfer job, and a calculation job? So what the difference is? Initial jobs are used to transfer initial data. What do we mean by initial data? Let me try to explain. Suppose say you have one table in ECC. Let's say the name of the table is VBAK. Let's say in this table you have 10 records. It could be 10 records, it could be 10 million records. So any number of records you may have. So first what we need to do? We need to get this VBAK table with 10 records to SAP HANA. So how do you get this table to SAP HANA? Now if you do an initial load, so what happens is whatever the data that you have in VBAK, it will transfer the entire data to SAP HANA. So once it transfers, suppose say later there are any changes. You created a new record called 11th record. This record will not get transferred to target. It will not get transferred to target unless and until you reload again. Only once you reload again, the 11th record will get to the target. So initial jobs are basically used to transfer data initially. Later, any newly created records or changes to the existing records will not get transferred. So the use of initial job is only to transfer the initial data. Later change, suppose say you change 8th record, you create a new record, 11th record. These changes are not transferred. So that is nothing but initial job. What is a data transfer job? A data transfer job continuously transfers data. You create a new record, 11th record, immediately it will transfer the 11th record to the target. So initial job transfer data only at initial. Data transfer job continuously transfer data to SAP HANA. What is a calculation job? Calculation jobs are the jobs which monitor system statistics. At what latency is the data being transferred? Everything about the system statistics is calculated using calculation jobs. So what are we, in which step are we in? We are in step number 2. What we have to do in step number 2? Create a configuration. Where should we create a configuration? LTRC. Inside LTRC, what we have to do? Specify the source, specify the target, specify the number of jobs, how many initial jobs you require, how many data transfer jobs you require, how many calculation jobs you require. Once you specify all these jobs, the next step is finish the configuration. Once you finish the configuration, once you complete the configuration, whatever the name that you provide for the configuration, suppose say you give the name of the configuration as ECC SLT. With the same name, with the same ECC SLT, with the same name, a schema is automatically created in SAP HANA. Suppose say you give the name as ECC SLT. So whatever the name that you give for the configuration, with the same name automatically a schema is created in SAP HANA. The name that you give for the configuration with the same name, schema is automatically created in SAP HANA. Once the schema is created in SAP HANA, automatically tables like DD02L, DD02T, DD08L, all these are SAP standard tables. So when will these tables replicate? These tables get replicated only when configuration is completed. Once you finish the configuration, what happens? Schema is created in SAP HANA. In that schema, automatically these tables are replicated. What tables are replicated? DD02L, DD02T, and DD08L. What are these tables? DD02L, it contains all SAP tables. All the SAP tables are stored in a single table. DD02T, it contains all SAP text related tables. It contains the text for SAP tables. DD08L, now this table contains the relationship between tables. DD02L contains SAP tables. DD02T contains text related to SAP tables. DD08L contains relationship between tables. Now, what is the purpose of these tables getting replicated to SAP HANA? Now, why SAP is replicating these tables automatically? What is the purpose? The purpose is in the SAP HANA Studio, when you do data provisioning, when you perform data provisioning activity in SAP HANA Studio, whenever you select a particular table, for example, KNA1 is customer master table. I would like to get KNA1 table to SAP HANA. If I want to get this table to SAP HANA, then first, when I try to search for KNA1, first it will search in DD02L. First it will search whether the KNA1 table is available in DD02L. Now, not only standard tables, it also search for custom tables. Both standard tables as well as custom tables. First it will search in DD02T. If this table is available in DD02T, then it sends the request via SLT to ECC and get that particular table to SAP HANA. So whenever you try to replicate, when you try to replicate data from ECC, first it will search in DD02L. So once it finds the table, then it sends the request to target, and once it sends the request to target, then this table will be available under the SLT schema. So why this? What is the purpose of these tables? Basically, it initiates the data transfer. These tables initiates the data transfer. So once this replication is complete, then there are 5 important options. There are 5 important options. Now, these options are: the first option is load. The second option is replicate. Third option is stop load slash replicate. Fourth option is suspend. And fifth option is resume. So where do you find these options? Load, replicate, stop load slash replicate, suspend and resume. So where do you find them? Right? So here you can see these options: load, replicate, stop replication, suspend and resume. Now what is the difference between load, replicate, stop replication, suspend and resume? What is the difference? Let me try to explain. A load is mainly used for master data. When do you have to go for load? For non-frequently changing data scenarios. Whenever the data is not going to change frequently. So what is the scenario? Data is not going to change frequently. Let us take a table T005T. T005T is a country text table. It's a country text table. So every day will new country get created? Obviously not. Yes, every day there is no new country getting created. But when it is created, this table gets updated. So what I'm trying to say is, whenever you think a data is not going to change frequently, like T005T, T005U, so these tables you can use load. What is the purpose of load? The purpose of load is it only gets data from source to target only once. only once it transfers data from source to target. Later you make any changes, data is not transferred. So the purpose of load is for non-frequently changing data scenarios. Whenever data is not going to change frequently, then we use load. For example, let me give a simple example. So here ECC, middle is SLT, target is HANA. There is a table. In this table, you have one record. What happens when you do load? The table gets loaded to SAP HANA. This table gets loaded to SAP HANA. And later, you create a second record. You create a second record. A second record will not get transferred to SAP HANA unless and until you execute load again. So first time when you execute, first record is transferred. Now second time when you execute, second time, so what system does is, it deletes the previous table. It recreates the table and it reloads first and second record. So every time what happens is, whenever you execute a load, the default behavior of system is it drops the table, recreates the table and reloads data. So that's the default behavior. Now suppose say you add third record. So what the system does is, again you load again for third time. It deletes this table again. It recreates the table. So this is a continuous process. But this process will not occur frequently. So that's why I'm trying to say, whenever you have non-frequently changing data scenarios, like T005T, T005U, load you can use for master data. Mainly you can use for master data. What is replicate? Replicate is for real time. Replicate is used for real time. What is real time? You create first record. First record gets 1 minute. So what does replicate does is, so when you do replicate, what happens is, you transfer first record, you create second record will transfer. You create third record will transfer. In real time, with a very minimum latency, within milliseconds it transfers the data. So when do you have to go for replication? You require real time transfer of data. Whenever there is a requirement to transfer data in real time, whatever you change, whether you insert, we update, delete, any kind of operation you perform on source, immediately it will transfer to SAP HANA. Replicate will work for both transaction as well as master. So you can use replicate for both transaction data as well as master data. Now what is stop? When do you have to go for stop? It's simple. When you don't want the table, you basically stop. When you don't require the table, you stop. Suspend is temporary halt. It's basically a temporary halt. So what is the difference between stop and suspend? Stop is permanent halt. Suspend is temporary halt. Only for time being you don't want to transfer. Now what is the scenario for time being you don't want to transfer? Suppose say you want to restart SAP HANA system. For 10 minutes you want to restart HANA system. Then you execute suspend for 10 minutes. Once you execute suspend for 10 minutes, it will halt data. Whatever changes that you make, it will halt. During this time, you can restart. Once you restart, you can resume. So simply to say, load is for non-frequently changing data scenarios. Replicate is for frequently changing data scenarios. Stop, permanent halt. You can permanently not replicating data, not loading or replicating data. Suspend is temporary halt. Resume is once you suspend, you have to resume. So let us go to the T code SM59. Click enter. So click on create connection. Click on create. Provide the RFC destination. So I'll give the name as ECC SLT AP13. Provide the description. So the host name is GNS. GNS is the host name. Instance number is go to the SAP logon. Right click on ECC. Click on properties. So instance number is 20. So you can just check the instance number by right clicking on the system. So enter the instance number as 20. Click on log on and security. Username is best. And password is W capital, welcome 123. Click save. Click on connection test. So once you click on connection test, so here you should be able to see connection test successful. So once the connection is successful, so source is ECC. So we created an RFC connection between ECC and SLT. So what is the name of the connection? So SLT, ECC SLT AP13. So this is the name. So once we create this RFC connection, let us go to the SLT server and enter the transaction code LTRC. Enter the T code LTRC. So because in our case SLT is inside the ECC system, so I'll directly enter the T code in the ECC system. So because SLT is inside ECC, so LTRC will work directly on ECC system. So click on create session. Enter the transaction code LTRC. Click enter. So whatever the configuration that you already have, so here we already have one existing configuration. So what I'll do is I'll just select this and click delete this configuration. Because I would like to show you from scratch. So I'm deleting the existing configuration. So click yes. Delete the existing configuration. So once you delete the existing configuration, click create configuration. So once you click create configuration, so first we need to provide the name for the configuration. We need to provide the name. So let ECC SLT ECC SLT AP13. I'll take this configuration. Let me click next. So I'm just trying to do it again. So click next. Create the config. Provide the RFC destination. Click next. Provide the system. Password W capital welcome 123. Provide the host name. So instance is 00. So basically instance is nothing but it's 00. So in SAP HANA you have the middle one is the instance number. So this is the port number and the instance is 00. So instance is 00. So here you can see here. Just right click on the system, click properties, click additional properties. So here you see 00 is the instance number. So let us go back, click next. Let us give the data transfer job says same 4, initial job says 2, calculation job is 1. Click next and finally click create. So once you click create, now it is starting to create the configuration. So what will happen once you click create? What will happen is, whatever the name that you've given for the so this is the configuration name. ECC SLT AP13 is the name of our configuration. ECC SLT AP13. With the same name, automatically a schema is created in SAP HANA. The communication is DB connection and the schema is ECC SLT AP13. So let us check whether the schema is created or not. So let us go back to HANA Studio. Let us right click on system, click refresh. So once you refresh, let us go to ECC SLT AP13. So this is the schema. So which is which has the same name as the configuration name. So let us click on window, click on perspective, click reset perspective, click yes. So once you click yes, on your right hand side you see something called quick view. At the quick view, click on data provisioning, click on this data provisioning, select system and click finish. Once you click finish, please see. Now where are we? We are inside SAP HANA Data Provisioning Editor. So we're inside the SAP HANA Data Provisioning Editor. So inside this editor, at the target schema. So what is the schema? What is my target schema? Nothing but name of configuration. This is the one. ECC SLT AP13. So let us try to scroll to the bottom and see. So here is the schema. So let us select this schema. So once you select the schema, please see here. Automatically tables like DD02L, DD02T and DD08L. All these three tables are created. So it is so by default what system does is, once it creates the configuration, schema is created. Once the schema is created, tables like DD02L, 2T and 8L are replicated. So from this schema, tables like DD0 2L, DD0 2T, and DD0 8L. These three tables are replicating to SAP HANA in this schema. So what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of these tables? The purpose of these tables is it will replicate all the SAP standard and custom tables. So 2L will have all the SAP standard tables and custom tables, everything. 2T will have a text related to SAP tables. 8L will have a relationship between SAP tables. So what is the purpose of these three getting replicated to SAP HANA? The purpose is when you go back to HANA Studio, so here you have something called, you have options like load, replicate, stop replicate, suspend and resume. Please see, when I click on load, you see from where are these tables reading from? You see there are so many tables over here. All these tables are read from a DD0 2L table, and text related to these tables are read from a DD0 2T. So what is the importance of replicating these tables automatically by system is, whenever you try to search a table, suppose say I try to search KNA1 table, click find. So you can search any table. So basically that table, whatever the table that you try to search, you can select this table, click add. The same table, it will send a request via SLT system to ECC system. It sends via SLT system to ECC, and from ECC the table is replicated to SAP HANA. So just to search this table, these tables are being replicated. So the purpose of replicating these tables is directly you can search these tables in SAP HANA and request these tables from SAP HANA to get data from ECC back to SAP HANA SLT created schema. It can get to SLT related schemas. So we have to wait until this process is complete. Unless and until this process is complete, so you have to get the status replicate in process. Now the status is load in process. For all these three tables, we need to get, click refresh. So basically we need to change the status, replicate in process. Thank you all the participants to attend today's session. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.